Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So, if you like your kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. A big thank you to our friends at Critical Failures. We're part of a live stream game. We've now moved to just currently trying out some new stuff and doing once a month for now. Check us out. The links to both of those is in the description. With that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's class. We are talking about the Hexblade Unearthed Arcana. Alright, first and foremost, we did cover the Hexblade before the Unearthed Arcana. They did change it afterwards, so there is a bit of a difference to them. It's not dynamically super life-changingly different. It's kind of like I think this is a slightly better version of the Unearthed Arcana previously, but we're going to get into it anyway. So the Hexblade spells you get at 3rd level don't change too much. You just lose magical weapon and you gain bestow curse, as well as you lose dispel magic. Outside of that, everything else is pretty much the same. Again, depending on how you want to play your warlock, these Hexblade spells might be really important to you or might not be. The Hexblade's curse, which is kind of the flagship of the Hexblade warlock, is now as follows. Your patron grants you the power to curse or hinder your foes. As a bonus action, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. The target is cursed for 1 minute, during which you gain the following benefits below. The curse ends early if you use this feature again, if you dismiss it, or die. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest, and when you cast a spell using a spell slot that curses the target, you can use your Hexblade curse as part of the casting that spell instead of taking a bonus action. When you do so, the target of the spell is a target of your Hexblade curse, and your Hexblade curse duration is either 1 minute or the spell's duration, whichever is longer. Now, that is really confusing to read and really confusing to understand. What this means is if you do anything that actually causes a quote-unquote curse effect, which would be something that hinders them, something that causes disadvantage, something that you can put on them as a disabling condition, really. So bestow curse fits like this, hex fits like this. Mainly, hex is kind of going to be one of the biggest draws to this, because that's kind of how it works previously with the original version of this. So you can use Hexblade's curse when you're out of spell slots, and you need to put these effects on to help benefit your character. But it works best in conjunction with something, which is why the duration is either 1 minute or the spell's duration, whichever is longer. So it fits with that spell. So you can be really creative with bestow curse and hex and doing things like that, which personally I think is better. The reason why I say this is because now it feels more like you're causing these negative effects on them, and you're causing that to draw into your power, and it works in conjunction. It's like adding an effect to the spell, and I think that really incentivizes you as a warlock to hex and to disable and to use conditions that are debilitating. Definitely walk down the line with your DM as to what would be considered a curse in order to make the most of it, and maybe get a few spells out there that kind of fit along those lines and add them into your repertoire, because that could be really, really great. Especially like changing the dynamics or giving yourself a little bit more thematic options to do. I think that would be really, really fun. That being said, you do gain these other benefits. The first one is Hungering Hex. When the target cursed by your Hexblade's curse drops to 0 hit points, you regain hit points equal to 1d8 plus your charisma modifier. That's very similar to what it was previously. It's not exact, but you still get life back for killing an enemy. Accursed Shield. While you aren't wearing armor or wielding a shield, you get a +2 bonus to your AC while you are within 10 feet of the target cursed by your Hexblade's curse. Now, this does add over to being like a shield, like you're carrying a shield. See, the problem here is it says when you're not wearing armor. That's the only real problem with this. And I say that because a warlock gets light armor standard, and not wearing any armor means you just have whatever your dexterity is. So it kind of feels like you're wearing studded leather, but it's not that great of a benefit ultimately, because you're basically sacrificing 2 AC for 2 AC, which I think personally is the worst kind of decision. I would change that to medium or heavy armor, because I think that makes much more of a difference. Because the original Hexblade gave you access to medium armor, so you could gain that extra and a shield, so you could up your DC without investing so much into dexterity. You'd have to kind of change your whole game plan for the Hexblade for this to work, but it is still at least a little something. But that wording definitely has to change. Absolutely, 100%. There's just no way around it. Level 3, you also gain Unyielding Will. When you succeed on a saving throw to maintain concentration, each creature of your choice in a 10-foot emanation originating from you takes 2d6 necrotic damage. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so again until the start of your next turn. In addition, when you fail a saving throw to maintain concentration, you can choose to succeed instead. You gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your warlock level. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. That is awesome. That is absolutely amazing. As a Hexblade, you are likely and extremely likely to pick up Pact of the Blade. 10-foot emanation means you can still use something with reach, like a polearm or a halberd or something, or a pike, and still get the most out of Unyielding Will. Concentration. Because you can use Hexblade's curse alongside any other cursing spell you have, that gives you a benefit to do that way. So you will have to maintain concentration during those spells, which would give you the opportunity to get the most out of Unyielding Will, because you will get hit at times. Being in melee when you get hit and succeeding on concentration checks to keep your spells going, this is a good kind of reciprocal way to turn getting hit into a positive. Obviously you don't want to, but if you had armor of Agathas on, for example, and you did take a hit, yeah, maybe it just chewed up the armors of Agathas. But you still got to do this extra damage for succeeding on a concentration check. And that's a big thing, because you're a caster, you do have a lot of spells that require concentration. This is a passive effect, it is always on, and if it's that spell, that one spell that you desperately need to keep up, that's when you use this to gain the temporary hit points and to automatically succeed instead. That's worth it. Level 6, you gain Maligned Brutality. Your patron's might furthers your bloodthirst, granting you the following benefits. Harrowing Hex. After you cast a level 1 or higher spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack as a bonus action. You also gain Hindering Curse. When you hit the target cursed by your Hexblade's curse with an attack roll, the target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes before the start of your next turn. Inescapable Hex. When the target of your Hexblade's curse ends its turn 30 feet or further from you, you can move up to your speed straight towards the target. Inescapable Hex is unique. It does give you an opportunity to chase somebody down. It does not alleviate you from opportunity attacks. That is really, really important to understand. You will still put yourself in danger if you're running past multiple enemies to get towards someone. So you got to think that one through. Hindering Curse is fantastic. If you have something that's cast as a bonus action, it's great. If you have other casters in your party, that is when this gets better. Because as you're now starting to focus fire on the right kind of targets, maybe you're whittling people down, maybe it's now time to fight the biggest monster out of that group, and now your Hexblade's curse is on, and all your other casters are starting to focus onto them, this disadvantage makes a big difference. It can very seriously help, especially when you're fighting things that might have advantage on saving throws. Maybe they're like Yuan-Ti, or they're bosses that have that ability to magical resistance. So burning through that is great, because then you can force the burn through the legendary resistance and make it so much easier for you to do all those things you need to. Then Harrowing Hex is just great. If you have to cast a spell depending on what that spell is, it might be really, really beneficial to just cast that over attacking. Most of the time it will, especially in circumstances where you have AoE spells or crowd control or just area control spells like Evard's Black Tentacles or anything like that that kind of isolates an area, making it just undesirable for the enemies to go through there. Throw that down and then hit the thing next to you, that's worth it. Or move into position where you can throw that down and strike an enemy. Say you know an enemy's already bloodied and they're almost down. You can run over to them, cast your spell wherever it has to be, and then go over and maybe finish them off with that hit. It could be really, really strategic, as it gives you a lot of now play with your bonus action and your abilities that you didn't have before. At level 10, you gain Armor of Hexes. When you take damage from the target cursed by your Hexblade's curse, you can take a reaction to reduce the damage taken by an amount equal to your warlock level. This is a constant reaction. You can use this every round. Understand how great that is to take 10 off the damage that you're receiving. Just right off the top, boom, gone. Didn't take it. That is really beneficial. That helps to prolong your hit points. That it's kind of like temporary hit points in a way, because you automatically reduce your damage taken by 10 every turn that you take damage at level 10. And that goes higher. It will never scale so high that it'll be like negating all damage, because at level 10 you'll get hit for more than 10 damage, and you'll get hit for more than 10 damage pretty regularly. But it's always good to reduce the damage you take. Also, if you have resistance to something, the resistance kicks in and then you minus 10 from that. That is a huge difference in damage reduction, making you a little bit tankier. At this point, maybe a Cursed Shield doesn't seem so bad, but you're at level 10. Making it from level 3 to 10 is a big jump for that to kind of like stay in play. The last ability you gain at level 14 is Masterful Hex. The power of your Hexblade curse increases, granting you the following benefits. A cursed critical. Any attack roll you make against a target cursed by your Hexblade curse scores a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20 on the d20. Explosive Hex. When you deal damage to the target cursed by your Hexblade's curse, you can cause your curse to explode with sinister energy. The target and each creature of your choice in a 30-foot emanation originating from the target takes 3d6 necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage, your choice, and their speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a Pact Magic spell slot to restore your use of it, and that does not require an action. And you gain Hex Restoration. You regain 1 expended use of your Hexblade curse when you finish a short rest, or use your Magical Cunning feature. Magical Cunning, again, is when you take a minute to restore half of your spell slots. That's pretty great, considering at this point, your Hexblade's curse does have its legitimate cap, right? So it stops at 5. Your charisma being a +6 for a modifier takes a lot of things falling in the right way, a lot of the right magical items being in place, and your DM being willing to give them to you. That is very DM specific, specifically DM specific. So in order to keep that going and to keep it moving, it is something that gaining that extra use can be beneficial. At level 14, the enemies you're fighting are definitely nothing to sneeze at. But being able to restore your Hexblade's curse is a benefit. A cursed critical is great. Doubling your crit chance by now I think it's a 10% chance. That's what it breaks down to, because every point on a d20 is 5%. So now you can score a crit on a 19 or 20. Great, up your crit range. Awesome, totally worth it in and out of itself. Explosive Hex, that is cool. The 3d6 necrotic damage isn't a lot. It isn't. It's a cool ability just to kind of do additional damage, especially in an area where there was a lot of enemies. Taking a little bit of damage off of all of them is very beneficial, especially considering radiant damage is one of those spell damages that can be really, really beneficial in certain circumstances. But that, again, based on what kind of campaign you're in, what enemies you're fighting. I don't believe using a Pact Magic slot to restore this ability, to restore a use of this ability is worth it. Flat out, period. No. Because there's a bunch of things you can do casting spells, I think at 5th level at this point, that will deal more than 3d6 damage in roughly a huge amount of area within there. So use it once, let it ride, that's it. I don't believe that this is in your best interest to use this pack magic slot. So how does this play out against the other Unearthed Arcana? Hexblade, in all honesty, I think it kind of just took everything the Unearthed Arcana had and kind of restructured it and made it a little bit more not front heavy and build out so it's more worth it to continue moving forward. I think that works out. I think Armor of Hexes is a little worse, technically speaking, but in all truth and honesty, the original Hexblade is just way stronger than this. The Hexblade's curse from the Hexblade gives you everything you need right up front. Armor of Hexes gives you an opportunity to just not take damage. You gain the Restore Life ability just from killing whatever it is. Not life, but like hit points. You also gain the ability to summon a Spectre. Like, it's just better in most of the facets. And your armor class goes up a lot. I think this Unearthed Arcana is better in competing, but I think the theme of the Hexblade gets kind of warped in the original version because you're not a necromancer, but it encourages you to kind of do necromancy things. And this, I think, makes you a little bit confused as to what you are. Like, you're so built for melee and doing all these things while making attacks against your cursed target, but nothing says you need to make a weapon attack. So you can be the Hexblade and just be an Eldritch Blast Warlock and gain all of these benefits and never really be in melee. You know what I mean? So that kind of like takes away from the mystique of it, and Hexblade's curse not working with any armor and just giving you a +2, it kind of just throws you all over the place. I think this needs work, personally, because I love the Warlock and I think the Hexblade is really cool. I think they needed to diminish the power of the original Hexblade. As much as I love it, it's one of those things where like you would join a campaign and be like, all right, did I join in early enough so I could be the Hexblade Warlock, or is everyone else going to, am I joining in too late that they already have one, or a Hexblade dip, or like 2 or 3 Warlocks in the same party? Again, Warlock's my favorite class. You could be so creative with it, and you can be so different even if you do pick the same subclass. But it did have, there's a reason why everybody picks the same one. Unfortunately, it's the power balance, and I think that's really something that needed to be rectified. Like, it's too strong to comparatively use with the other ones. Just from the defensive bonuses and the increased crit, like, it's just very, very powerful. This is a step in the right direction, but it is not there yet. There's just still some things that are missing to it that I feel need to be brought up to speed. One of the major things is a cursed shield for me. Let him wear light armor, please. Like let it balance out so it's actually investing worse. It's worth investing into playing this class. Everything else, though, I think falls into line. I think everything's pretty good up until you get to Masterful Hex, where Explosive Hex just kind of feels weakened and great for like that one extra attack. So you wait for a crit, and then you throw it on there so that way the damage gets added on to the crit damage to that character. And it's great that there's no save for it. They just take the damage. But it's not enough for all the alternative people to get hit by to be worth it to waste a spell slot to do again. With that all said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. Let us know if you've used the Hexblade, if you use the Unearthed Arcana Hexblade, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I love to hear alternative opinions because sometimes it feels like I'm talking to myself, and I want to make sure that I grasp the perspectives that are different, because it really opens my eyes to the possibilities and to some of the things that I can't see, but you guys see. It's like really, really important, and I want to make sure to reach out and understand that. Big thank you to all of you who've watched the video. If you made it this far, like, share, and subscribe. Definitely talk to us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do is amazing. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as a link to our good friends at Critical Failures. Check us out. The new live stream schedule is changing a little bit. We're doing a little bit of, I guess, creative construction. I guess we're trying to work on what we've worked before, use that knowledge to build something greater, and that's what we're working on right now. So stay tuned to that, and thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.